Another session. Housekeeping. As you probably just heard, this meeting is being recorded. It will just be my face. So please don't worry about anyone kind of seeing your details, etc. But if you want to change your names, please feel free. Um, for those of you who have not seen me before, my name is Jo Southall. I'm an independent occupational therapist and I specialise in supporting people with complex long-term conditions. I teach self-management strategies. I look at lifestyle adaptations, workplace accommodations, all kinds of stuff. I do also live with hypermobile EDS and POTS, amongst a few other things. So this session will hopefully be a mix of things that I do that work, things that I've seen at work that have been useful, and I'll try to answer as many of your questions as possible. I do have a few pre-asked questions, so I'll make a start on those. And then any questions that have popped up in the chat, we'll just go through in the order they come in. Um, Feel free to ask whatever you want to ask. If I can't kind of give you a direct answer, what I might do is just recommend some resources or refer you on to somebody who might be of more use than I am. Lovely. Okay, please do start sending your questions in. Let me just check my questions. So, what company is it that does the lightweight Lycra bespoke suits? Orthotics here has said they do not supply and will not offer any advice. So, any tips for buying it ourselves? Wow, super helpful. Great, nice work, Orthotics. Okay, so I'll go back to basics because I think this would probably help quite a few people. And I'll just kind of fill in the gaps for anyone who's not come across the compression stuff before. So, um, sensory dynamic orthoses or lycra splinting or lycra suits, all very much the same thing, 1001 different names for it. Basically, what you're looking at are custom made compression garments that are designed to improve proprioception, to support your joints, encourage good posture, and to give you just overall kind of like a little bit of a squeeze, just so you know where your own body is. Particularly useful for anyone who's got autonomic dysfunction because the little bit of compression is kind of like a combination between like compression stockings for support, but also like joint support. So it's a really nice combination approach. It's not too restrictive. They're pretty comfortable to wear. You can still slouch. It just encourages you not to. So you're not forced into really unnatural positions for long periods of time. It is just about encouraging you to kind of use your body the way it's supposed to be used, rather than in the human jellyfish mode that most of us live our lives in because sitting up and walking are hard. Yeah. There are three companies in the UK that do completely bespoke lycra compression clothing. So those are DM Orthotics, Jobskin, who trade under, I think it's Medi Garments or something like that, and Allard UK. So these are multiple layers of lycra, custom made completely. To get fitted, you will have to have tape measures in places you've never had tape measures before. And that's even if you've had clothing tailored, but yeah, more tape measures. Um, what they can do after that is build reinforcement panels on top that will help to specifically stabilize you in key areas. So a lot of my hypermobility affects my pelvis and I have hip dysplasia as well. So hip and SI stability for me has always been a big part of any kind of compression clothing I get made. So I've basically got an SI belt built into a pair of leggings in one of my older sets, which is, really, really useful. Have I got any in here? Maybe. A second. There we go. Oh, okay. So it's probably easier to actually show you rather than explain. So on this pair of leggings, the navy blue is single layer and the light blue is reinforcement over the top. So if I turn around for the back, the bit that's actually over my SI joints and the lower part of my back and down over my bum has about 3 or 4 layers of lycra, whereas the front of like the thigh area where there's no reinforcements is just a single layer. So this kind of stuff is a really good compromise for where you've got a group of people who need support and have really awful body awareness, but you also don't want to be too restricted because it's too much of a change from our usual kind of super mushy structural systems. So I really like this kind of approach. The newer version, which is actually what I've got now, comes from Allard UK as well, and that's the Hymo. So the Hymo is a lighter weight version. It's less customizable. Basically, they worked out that a certain number of panels, like a certain number, like a style of compression, works well for most bendy people. And those are the options you get. And the options you can choose are like the leg length. So you can go above knee, like mid calf, like below knee, or ankle length, I think. And then you've got the kind of like bodysuit option. So it's kind of like a leotard, like a swimsuit, and you can combine those two. So you can have the compression leggings with the bodysuit for a little bit of added pelvic stability, as an example. Or you can just wear the bodysuit if it's mostly like back and shoulder problems. There are two things I particularly like about the Hymo. So you do have to compromise on the amount of support you're getting. They are not as customizable. The completely custom ones, DMO as an example, you can even get things like little removable Velcro panels if you've got feeding tubes or central lines. Like they are completely customizable. I genuinely think the engineering team there see it as a challenge if you can come up with an option that they don't currently offer as stock. Hymo, a lot less adaptable, but it's a lot lighter weight, it's a lot thinner, which for anyone who has severe heat intolerance is a really, really useful thing to keep in mind. And the other thing is that it's swim rated. So I've got Hymo leggings. They are just below knee length, just plain black. They just look like regular leggings. And I've swum in the sea in them. And they're also safe for use in swimming pools, which, to the best of my knowledge, none of the other options have actually been tested for in-water use. So could I swim in them? Yes. Is it probably going to break some long term? Maybe. So it's worth having a think about if you are kind of really struggling with certain areas and certain types of support are essential. The Hymo probably isn't going to do it for you. But as a compromising option, particularly for people who really want to be able to exercise a little bit more safely, the Hymo is a good one. What you may find is that you actually need multiple options, or you may transition from one option to another over the course of a few years. If I end up having kind of major hip stability issues again, I'll probably go back to DMO. And then I might come back to this when the rehab gets a little bit better. So, um, one of the difficult things about living with long-term conditions like these is that very few people have like a fixed level of function, and that's just how they cope forever. So, you might need to change it up a little bit, over the course of time. But all of those companies should be available via NHS Orthotics. In theory, even if the orthotics company doesn't provide them, all of those companies have roving fitters. So they basically have a small group of fitting, measuring people who just travel the country in blocks and go and fit. So as an example, if they've got say 3 people in like roughly the east of England who want fitting, they'll make a trip down and they'll fit all 3 of them and then disappear off again. So even if your orthotist isn't certified to fit it, technically the NHS should still be providing it. However, it is a bit of a postcode lottery out there, as we well know. So yeah, it's a difficult one. If you cannot get NHS fitted, you will still need a fitter. You can't just buy this stuff off the shelf. Some of the companies, DMO, I think, have started doing an off-the-shelf range, but even then you need to be measured in a few places. So I would recommend getting fitted. Most companies also have private fitters that they can recommend in certain areas. So if you get in touch with them or have a look on the websites, you should be able to spot where your local clinic is, or email the company and see if you can arrange to have a private fitting from one of their roving fitters, but not as part of the NHS. So that would be my advice there. I hope that's helpful. Okay. Bye. Is the Zebra Club app exercises worth getting? That's an interesting question. It's worth getting if it's the right product for you. So I actually had a conversation about this with my mum like 2 days ago. So it's all fresh in my mind. For those of you that haven't come across it, the Zebra Club is an app based on movement, body awareness type training from a lady called Jeannie Di Bon, who started out in Pilates a long time ago and has progressively got more and more specialized and adapted. And the Zebra Club is the result of those years of working out specifically what works for hypermobile people, and particularly hypermobile people with autonomic dysfunction. So some of the things that we tend to be not great at in that little subset of people is breathing, sitting upright, standing, body awareness. So the app kind of exercises take you right back to basics and kind of encourage you to address some of the key things that are common within all hypermobile people. So if you have a reasonably semi-consistent level of fitness within your body, you are hypermobile, you've got autonomic issues, but you're okay getting up off the floor, as an example, like general everyday movements, you're relatively safe on, you don't have any kind of symptoms that are likely to land you in bed for 3 weeks if you attempt to do 10 minutes of exercise. If you're kind of stable and within those categories, Zebra Club is a great option. Um, that said, if you, how do I phrase this? Basically, so there's bendy people that are kind of consistently bendy and consistently vaguely not functional in various ways, right? Like I'm like that most of the time. Like it's a high chance I'll get injured. I fall over a fair bit, but I'm mostly semi-functional. Then you've got bendy people who've got all of that stuff plus acute injury, as an example. So you might have really badly destabilized the shoulder through repeated subluxations, and it's got to the point where it literally just hangs out of the socket the whole time. Yeah. Zebra Club is not necessarily going to address the shoulder problem. Will it help overall? Maybe. But if you are the sort of person who's carrying a long term serious destabilization injury and you're getting to the point where you're kind of borderline surgical maybe, or you're really struggling functionally, you're getting a lot of like neurological issues like numbness or pins and needles, address that first. So essentially what you might need to do is some prep rehab to get you ready to do Zebra Club rehab. So likewise, if you are autonomically, you had a really, really tough time getting a POTS diagnosis, as an example. If you've been in bed for 6 months and you don't currently tolerate sitting up, Zebra Club, again, might not be the place to start. Yeah. So what I would say is with any exercise program, with any person anywhere, take it slow. Don't make any like big changes. Try to make a series of small changes. So what you might like to do is check out Jeannie Di Bon's Instagram, Facebook, Threads, I think as well, YouTube. Have a look through. Look at the sorts of videos she's doing, the sorts of content she's talking about. Is that relatable to you? Are you in a position where that advice that she's talking about on her social media is directly relatable to your situation right now? If so, there is a decent chance the Zebra Club is going to be the perfect thing for you. If you're sat there going, oh, I wish I could do some of this, or that exercise looks really impossible, or oh, I can't sit up well enough at the moment to do any of these exercises, you may need to do the pre-rehab before you do the actual rehab, if that's making any sense at all. So have a look at the free stuff. If you think the free stuff is brilliant and it's very applicable and you can immediately see how it would fit in nicely with your life, then you're a good candidate. Go for it. The other option potentially would be to email Jeannie and just say, hi, what do you recommend? Because there are other classes she offers, there are other things that are involved. You may even know other local professionals. You may even be able to go and see her privately for a couple of sessions. So if in doubt, drop her a message would be my other piece of advice. But I think hopefully that sort of answers the question. Essentially, I'm a massive fan of Jeannie and what she does, and I think the Zebra Club is brilliant. A lot of my clients have done the Zebra Club and have found it really beneficial. I'm convincing my own mother to sign up. Like it's something that does work really well for a lot of people. But my advice still holds true in terms of pre-rehab being necessary for some of us, and also in terms of not don't go from having not exercised for 6 months to doing daily Zebra Club workouts. Build yourself in gently, take it slowly. There is no rush to get through all of it. Okay. So I hope that kind of helps. Lovely. Okay. 73-year-old and just discovered hypermobility. Now struggling with overload of info. I fall, ankles are unstable, broke my wrist 2 weeks ago, elbow last year, and now about bowel prolapse. All a bit much right now. Yes, that is a bit much, isn't it? Gosh. Um, yeah. Okay. So how do we unpick the overwhelm stuff? Okay. Step one, I think, is recognizing that diagnosis does not inherently change anything about who you are. Um, you have had this your entire life and you have coped for all of those years. Maybe not ideally, it's probably been very difficult. I expect you've suffered more than you needed to. If you had got a diagnosis earlier, it would have been better. You are well within your rights to be incredibly angry and disappointed about that. So don't squash all of your feelings down to start with. Sit and have a little cry and, eat some ice cream if it's safe for you to do so and mope about it and watch a sad film because you're right to be annoyed. It shouldn't be this difficult and it shouldn't be on you to do all of this work. Um, in terms of the overwhelm stuff, almost everyone I know when they get a diagnosis, and this is definitely true for me as well, goes through a phase of reading absolutely everything, joining every group, joining every forum, going to every support group meeting, and you spend your entire time going, oh, that's me. Oh, that's why that happened. Oh, that suddenly makes sense. And as a result, you get progressively more annoyed that nobody put these pieces together because now that you know the answer, the puzzle is really freaking obvious. Yeah. So it is like a lot to deal with, and you're going to have some feelings physically and emotionally, etc. Now, with all things hypermobility, I try to take an individual approach, as in, I don't just think all hypermobile people should do these 5 things and then they'll all be better. It's not as simple as that. But there are some things that I think everyone should do, and there are some things that I recommend to 99% of hypermobile people. So the first one is recognizing that there is no one simple answer to fixing all of this health stuff. It's going to be a complex picture, and it's not going to be entirely something you can puzzle out on your own. So I work with a health toolkit approach where I work with clients to develop their own coping strategies. So things like pacing, which I will come on to in a second, things like managing injuries, managing falls, communicating with healthcare professionals. Those are the things that it's on you to develop. Yeah. The other parts of your health toolkit are things like actually mobility aids. If you are falling over a lot, if you are struggling to avoid injuries, get yourself a mobility aid, particularly a mobility aid you can sit on. One of the things that happens very, very rapidly for people who fall and get badly injured is that loss of confidence. And when you've lost your confidence, stop going places and doing things. And when you stop going places and doing things, it's very easy for that to have a negative impact on your mental health, your emotional well-being, your long-term ability to get up and go out again. So that whole get back on the horse thing is sort of true, but also it's not necessarily get back on the horse, it might be get in the car. Do you know? So find ways to go places and do things, whether that's a mobility scooter, whether that's somebody pushing you in a wheelchair, whether that is, cycling rather than walking. There is no wrong answer mobility aid wise, and what works for one won't work for another. But get yourself a means of getting some fresh air and getting out into the sunshine and enjoying yourself that is not dependent on your ability to walk. particularly if you are, recovering from injuries or, surgery or anything like traumatic for the whole body there. Sunshine, fresh air, human connection. These are things that we need to recover. Get yourself those things. Um, the next thing is pacing. Oh, sorry. No, I'll come back to them in a second. So the next thing is to then start thinking about who you're going to need in your corner, healthcare team wise, support team wise. So it may be that actually mental health and emotional well-being do need looking at. A lot of people who are diagnosed late are diagnosed, they get an initial sense of relief, and then the annoyance and anger sets in. And you're right to be angry, but you can't let anger become your overriding emotion for the foreseeable future. So dealing with that in a constructive way and then making a plan for how you get your quality of life back is a sensible thing. If you have acute injuries, which you have, rehabilitation support in the form of physiotherapy is a good thing. Physiotherapy, Pilates, any kind of water-based exercise, even just walking up and down in a swimming pool is really, really good for hypermobile people on whole. What you want is a good combination of resistance and support, but low impact. So you don't want to be doing things like running, but something like cycling is a similar movement. It's great cardio fitness, but it's much lower impact. So people tend to tolerate that better. Swimming offers you support, as in it literally compresses your body in the same way that compression clothing does, but it also offers resistance. So to walk in water is lower impact than walking on land, but it's harder work. So every 10 steps you take in water, you get more out of than 10 steps on land. But you're also less likely to fall over and hurt yourself. So I'm a huge fan of water-based exercises. But get yourself a swimming instructor, get yourself a gym membership with somebody who has a good understanding of chronic conditions. Get yourself referred to clinical Pilates sessions, as an example. Find something that works for you. Then you start thinking about your other symptoms. So we've already mentioned some bowel stuff going on there. That may well require specialist input. So I don't look at a hypermobile person and go, all of us everywhere will need a cardiologist, a gastroenterologist, a dietitian, an orthopedic specialist, whatever. You don't. It's about picking and choosing what you need at the time you need it and prioritizing that accordingly. So you've been living with all of this stuff. You've continued to survive without support. Don't feel like you now need to get all of the support sorted by next Tuesday or it's all going to go wrong. What's your top priority? What's an easy thing you can do right now? Do those things. When those things are at least kind of sort or under control, then you start doing the next stuff. And eventually you will pull together the right combination of people, strategies, and equipment to be able to manage the quality of life you want at less cost. So less injuries, less pain, less falls. Yeah. In terms of advice that I would give, firstly, book an appointment, come see me, because I think it sounds like you need some support. In terms of the stuff I would start talking about, pacing is a big thing. So pacing is all about efficiency. And often people think about pacing as do a thing, have a rest, but that's not generally how I teach it. So what I would teach would be actually alternate between tasks that have different demands on your body and mind. Take breaks before you need them rather than waiting until you're already starting to be in more pain and then you stop. That's too late. So if I know I can do 20 minutes of weeding in the garden before I start to get back pain, I stop at 15, as an example. And I might just go and have a cup of tea and then come back. Or I might go and do something else in the garden, but in a different position, and then come back. So learning to change things up can be really helpful. And this applies to all aspects of your house and home. So blitz cleaning is something a lot of people feel like they're supposed to do. You're supposed to go and clean the entire bathroom in one go, and then it's sparkling, and then for 2 weeks it gets progressively less sparkling until you get annoyed and then blitz clean it all over again. That's not the paced approach. The paced approach might be, I've just been to the loo. While I'm in the bathroom, I will clean the toilet and then I'm going to go back to work. That's it. But if I do that often enough throughout the week, I can get the whole bathroom done, just about, but not in any one time, not in any one instance. Likewise, bed sheets. We don't generally strip the entire bed in one go, ever anymore. We've got enough bed sheets that there are like two sets of everything, and they all coordinate if they don't match. So I might change, or my partner, we might do it together, whatever. So the duvet cover might get changed one time, and then the next time it would be fitted sheet and pillowcases. Or we might just use a flat sheet so that we're not actually getting the duvet cover like resting on skin, as an example. So that can help as well. So a lot of what I teach is about modifying how we think about breaking activities up with the intention of maximizing how much stuff you can get done before you run out of energy. um, the other thing I would really have a think about is learning to fall over. Um, Other healthcare professionals often look at me like I'm absolutely bonkers when I suggest this, because falls prevention, as like a specialism within the NHS, is all about stopping people falling over. Realistically, hypermobile people who are recently injured, deconditioned, maybe a little bit past their prime, as an example, um, we're going to fall over. We just are. I fall over regularly. Most of the time I catch myself, but when I don't, I very rarely injure myself. And the reason is that I've learned how to fall safely. So if you topple, fall over, what tends to, if this particularly tends to happen if we panic or tense up when we start to lose our balance. If you're fighting it and you tense up and you topple over, that's the kind of fall that is most likely to result in a head injury. Head injuries are bad. We don't want head injuries. If you can get the hang of crumpling, what you end up with is a bruised butt, maybe a slightly twisted ankle. That, compared to broken bones of trying to break your fall by having a hand out in front of you or toppling and cracking your head open, is very, very minor. So if you think you are losing your balance enough that you are going to fall, don't fight it, give up and crumple down and sit on the floor. For those of us carrying a little bit of extra junk in the trunk, this is generally like the safest, best way to do it. A little bit of butt padding is a good thing here. I actually had a client years and years ago who one of her goals when she started working with me was to learn to roller skate. And she did. She went like, yeah, somebody else has just put roller derby was helpful for learning how to fall. Learning to fall on skates, you have to learn to do it safely because you're gonna fall, right? You're gonna, yeah. But roller skate padding is also perfectly designed to prevent damage when you fall over. So my client who learned to roller skate went roller skating with like a rolling walker as a mobility aid while she was on skates, but she actually kept wearing like roller derby padding because it protects like your hips and your butt when you fall over. So it ended up being really, really useful. But learning to crumple so that if you're going to fall, you're falling down and you're landing on your bum. And particularly if you can land on your bum somewhere soft, it's good. It's still going to hurt. It's still not pleasant. Ideally, I would not fall over at all. But I am a pragmatist when it comes to healthcare. We cannot fix the falling over, particularly when it's such a complicated issue. Yeah. If there are tasks or areas in your home that persistently result in you falling over, get yourself cushions in those key areas. So if you know half of the time you get halfway up the stairs and lose your balance, put a cushion on the step, break your fall. If you know that you are, prone to falling when you're going down steps in the garden, put a chair in the right area so you're landing on the chair. And it's kind of like the way that you baby proof a house for toddlers, do the same for you, but in a slightly more grown up stylish way. So it doesn't need to be like foam padding around corners. It can be cushions, it can be throw blankets, it can be whatever. But yeah, learn how to fall over and land safely. And generally, it's a good thing. So I've just realised I'm not actually spotlighted. I hope you've all been able to see me the whole time. Um, yeah, I fall on the pavement. Yeah, if you fall on the pavement, you need a mobility aid. Um, I think a lot of people are quite resistant to using mobility aids if they can walk, but walking is supposed to be safe and it's supposed to be pain-free. If you cannot do walking that's both safe and pain-free, you're not doing walking right. So, mobility aids, genuinely, and you might not need it all the time. You might even use it like on occasion. It may be something that you only have on days where it's particularly busy or you are particularly tired. If I go to the supermarket on a quiet time, so like weekday daytimes as an example, I'm fine without a mobility aid. If we go to the supermarket on weekends or like Friday evenings where it tends to be quite busy as well, mobility aid. Every single time, mobility aid. Um, because it's stressful. So and it's more people and it's you're more likely to get overwhelmed and fall over. So um, yeah, I hope that kind of helps. Um, yeah. Walking stick is a good starting point. Personally, I don't recommend walking sticks very often. And the reason for that is that if you're using your hands for something and you put a walking stick down, 5 times out of 10 it will fall on the floor. There are gadgets and gizmos you can get that will stop it from falling on the floor. But if it does fall on the floor and you have to pick it up, you're then more at risk from falling over because you're leaning over to get it. So for most people, my starter mobility aid is crutches. And you can use one or you can use both. You can alternate what side you're using it on, but the stick stays attached to your forearm while you're paying, while you're opening a bag, while you're opening your front door, that kind of thing. So you're less likely to end up toppling over trying to rescue your mobility aids because you had to put them down for a few minutes. Mobility showrooms are a thing. You can go to a mobility showroom and test out a load of options. Physiotherapists, occupational therapists, if you can go see one in person, often help. Independent living centres are occasionally a thing as well, so you can go and check those out. But try things and see. But generally, like, I love a rollator. I think wheelchairs are brilliant. Walking sticks have a purpose, but it's a limited purpose. And the purpose is specifically for people who only want to use it for like very tiny amounts of the day, and you want something that folds up and goes in a rucksack or a handbag. In those situations, I recommend a walking stick. For almost everyone else, I jump straight to crutches. The other reason is that any kind of folding or moving parts in any mobility aid reduce efficiency. So the more joins you have in a thing, the more movement, vibration, the more loss of efficiency you get. So you're having to use some of your limited amount of energy to actually stabilize the walking stick being wobbly. Yeah. Whereas a crutch, less moving parts, more solid joints, they're designed to have more of your weight put through them. So they are inherently more stable than a walking stick, which is kind of just designed for like balance and a little bit of support. I hope that makes a bit of sense. Maybe. Um, yeah. Let me know if you've got follow-up questions. Um, okay. Was that the last, or have I got one more? Yes, lovely. So we are on to the actual chat now. Can you recommend supports slash braces for ankles? My ankles collapsed without warning, broke my wrist 3 weeks ago. Oh, is this the same? I think this is the same person. Okay, I'm with you now. Osteoarthritis, fibromyalgia. I would ask your GP for a referral to orthotics. So orthotics as a department is the NHS's catch-all department for compression stockings, prescription shoes, and like splinting and bracing. The reason I recommend orthotics is that braces work brilliantly if you are fitted well and they are designed specifically for the problem that you actually have. So if you just Google ankle brace and pick one that's roughly in your price range, if it is the right product but it doesn't fit you well, it won't work well for you. If it's the wrong product and it fits well, it won't do what you want it to. So there is a little bit of trial and error involved with this sometimes. I think wrist braces over the course of my entire adult life, bearing in mind I'm 35 now, so that's still not a particularly long period of time, really, in the grand scheme of things. Um, I've probably had 10 different pairs of wrist braces. I've definitely had 10 different pairs of ankle braces. Some of them were custom made, some of them still had to go back and be altered and repaired and what's up. Um, if you're doing it yourself and you buy a product and it doesn't work brilliantly, that's a waste of money. If you buy a product and it doesn't work brilliantly, the NHS is footing the bill for that. The NHS can send them back, and they get them at trade prices anyway. So it's cheaper to get them for the NHS to buy them than it is for you to buy them as an individual. Um, as an example of the prices you can be looking at, um, my last pair of like knee braces, really hardcore knee braces I got from the NHS was 650 quid each. Um, my last pair of wrist braces that I actually got myself, um, after getting measured were, I think, 50 something quid. So this stuff adds up quite rapidly, particularly if you're looking for maybe a support that's really hardcore for post injury and then something a little bit more gently supportive for daily use, as an example. So you may find that you actually need multiple options for different things. So I would always recommend going via orthotics, or at the very least having an appointment with somebody who can recommend specifically based on what you want to do in that brace, as well as what fits you. So if you are planning on using ankle supports, but you're planning on wearing them for dancing, as an example, they're going to need to work with whatever kind of dance shoes you're wearing. So the ankle support I would recommend to somebody who does trampolining is very different to the ankle support I would recommend to, say, a Latin dancer. So your local area can make a big difference as well. Do you typically wear boots or shoes? All of this stuff needs taking into account to give you a product that's really, really going to be perfect for you. So orthotics is the way to go. In the meantime, compression sleeves, even just tubey grip, like any of the elasticated bandagey type stuff, will help a bit, but it probably won't be enough and it won't last well. So get yourself some kind of like pull on thingy, and that will do the job for now. But get yourself a referral to orthotics or speak to an orthotist, physio or OT or somebody privately and go from there, I think. Um, oh, and in the meantime, like supportive lace up boots can be a really helpful thing as well, rather than shoes. Uh, what else have we got in the chat? Thank you kindly, Anne. Annie. um, lovely. Oh, are we done with questions? What have we got? Great. Yeah, it's nice to know that other people have learned to fall over properly and that other people have found the same thing about crutches and walking sticks because I think there is a lot of um, not necessarily resistance, but people feel like they have to try a mobility aid before getting like the next level up mobility aid. If you have a variable condition, you are going to need more than one thing. So I've got a wooden like walking pole I use for reenactment, a wooden walking stick I use for reenactment. I've got crutches that I use for daily life. I've got rollators, and then I've got a wheelchair with power assist wheels. I will probably use all of them in a 3 or 4 month span fairly easily. Sometimes I'll use all of them in a week. Um, but yes, it is. You're going to need more than one thing effectively. So having all of the options means you can pick and choose depending on which particular bit of your body has decided to throw a tantrum and what you're planning on doing that day. So if I'm planning on doing something adventurous on my own and I'm having a rough day, I'll do it sat down, wheelchair. If I'm planning on going with my partner and he can both pick me up, catch me, and carry everything, maybe I don't need the wheelchair. Maybe I've got my human assistant to do all of that stuff for me. So, um, yeah, variable. Try some options out. Um, Rollators with decent breaks in wet. My shoulders subluxate with crutches. Last orthotist hadn't read my notes and only suggested metal rods to support a sideways. Okay. Um, Good orthotist that is open-minded about hypermobility. To be honest, for shoulders, um, very, very rarely do I recommend anything other than DMO's custom shoulder braces. The only other thing I sometimes recommend would be like the subluxation cuffs that are designed for neurological issues. Um, but even that would be like a last ditch result because one of those is like 150 quid. Um, so they're like eye-wateringly expensive. Um, so any orthotist, but I think, do your own research about what works, get referred with the intention of getting that product. So get referred for compression garments, and then your orthotist will provide compression garments. It is usually a good way to go about it. It is frustrating. The only other thing I can suggest is that if you've got multiple orthotists in your local area, get your GP to write to the department and inquire if anyone has like an interest in that particular area or has experience with hypermobility. And then when they know that, get referred to them. Um, but yeah, it's difficult. We do need more orthotists who are bendy aware. Um, I am doing my best to convince some of them to learn. So we will see how it goes. Um, okay, rollators. I actually came across a company. I need to check them out because I was specifically looking for rollators for somebody who likes gardening recently, and it's Trionic. Um, So they do, again, not cheap, not cheap. But they do look very, very good. They do a range of off-road ones, and they've even got like bags and things as part of it that are designed for carrying outdoor kit, which I'm a big fan of. So Trionic might be worth a look. I'm probably butchering the pronunciation of that, and it's actually pronounced something completely different. But um, yeah, Trionic would be a good thing to have a look. I'm sure Link Ferry will whiz over and find something shortly. Um, the other thing would be actually if you've had your rollator for a little while, actually getting it serviced can be helpful. Sometimes it's not that the brakes are bad quality, it's that the brakes are knackered because they've been used so often. So I find this with my wheelchair too. My brakes don't work as well if the tyres are flat. So if the brakes start to feel a bit rubbish, normally it's because something needs tightening up or the tyres need sorting or everything's got a bit worn or rattly or loose. So it might be that servicing your existing one is a good idea, and if not, something specifically designed for off-road would be a better option. But yeah, I think often we kind of forget that mobility aids need servicing the same way that all equipment does. So um, yeah, anything off-roady. If it's got off-road tires, the brakes will handle being wet, generally speaking. So yeah, see if that helps, maybe. Um, Okie dokie. Can we talk about the season? It's not summer hot yet, but it's itchy, scratchy, sneezy season, and I'm not ready. Okay. Um, all of the allergy season. Histamine bucket advice. Okay, so your histamine bucket theory if you are imagining a bucket within your body that collects histamine every time you are allergic to something, okay? What happens is when your bucket is full, anything that your body finds even remotely minorly irritating is enough to cause an allergic reaction. If your bucket is empty, you have a little bit more wiggle room, a bit more tolerance for things that your body finds annoying. So you might have a food or a drink or a tree or something that your body is mildly annoyed by. But if you've kept your bucket empty, you'll cope with it better. So things for emptying buckets, particularly antihistamines. Um, I spoke to somebody quite a few years ago, nurse practitioner. Basically, every hypermobile patient she has, she just puts them on antihistamines all the time, all year round. I've been on a daily antihistamine for well over a decade at this point, and it does make a big difference because it keeps just eking out a little bit of your bucket, just gives you a little bit of wiggle room. If you know you are being sensitized by trees, plants, grass, outside, sunshine, whatever, be as careful as you can about other irritants that you can control in your daily life. Stay away from vapors. Don't wear perfume. Don't wear fragrance like laundry detergents, that kind of thing. If you know you are sensitive to certain foods, give up those certain foods during peak hay fever season. So you don't want to be kind of adding little bits to your bucket if the environment around you is already topping the bucket up, kind of thing. Um, Itchy wise, I got this tip from who was it? Oh my gosh. She was on a live stream. The lady from Marcel Action UK, Joy. Joy over at Marcel Action. She basically was telling me that sodium chromoglycate, as in like that mast cell stabilizing medication, is available as eye drops and nasal sprays. Okay. Off prescription, you can just get them. It's not even like a prescription thing, whereas the tablets are a prescription thing. Some clever ingenious person worked out that if you spray sodium chromoglycate nasal spray on your skin, it can help with rashes and itching. So I've not tested this. I'm waiting for my first allergic reaction to something this year, or the first bug bite that goes weird or whatever, to test this out. But yeah, apparently anti-allergy nasal sprays can work topically as a rash treatment. So that's your nice little hack. The final thing, and again, I'm not a nutritionalist, but I did do my research. I read some journal articles. There are plenty of journal articles out there that gets talked about a lot. And actually, Dr. A, he's like a GP med influencer guy. He was talking about this as well, supplements for mast cell activation, quercetin. So quercetin is a thing found in nuts, apples, various other things. It has a mast cell stabilizing effect. So I put myself and my partner on it because he gets really horrendous allergies, particularly this time of year. And we've definitely been better since being on it. Definitely. So I can't recommend that formally as an OT, but as a patient and a fellow itchy, annoyed person, quercetin has been a game changer for me personally. So that might be worth a little snoop. If you Google it, you can find quite a lot of results, people talking about quercetin for EDS and for mast cell activation. So yeah, lovely. Mm. What have we got chat wise? Yeah, Joy Mason, thank you. Um, oh, you can't take quercetin of Aberdeen. Oh, that's annoying. Oh. Um, hmm. Reach out to Master Action and see if there's any other options because they might have come across some stuff. But if not, the med influencer guy was he just goes by Dr. A, GP in the UK kind of thing. But yeah, he was talking about a few different ones, so that might be worth a little research. And thank you for letting me know. That's good to know. Okay. Magda, I'm going to come back to your question in your supervision, if that's all right, or we'll do it in a team meeting. Um, Okay. Wondering if you have any thoughts of things we might do for my 16-year-old daughter. She loves dance, but has had a catalogue of ankle dislocations and fractured toes. She has hypermobility, but we'll be looking at EDS. One thing would be to get really, really proactive with physiotherapy. I would see a podiatrist for sure. Podiatry dance is difficult because a lot of the times various different kinds of dance put strain on the body in different ways. And it may be that the sorts of dance that you have to do in low profile, not very supportive shoes aren't necessarily particularly suitable. Likewise, ballet for a lot of people is good up to a point, but hypermobile people don't cope particularly well dancing on point. So tap shoes as an example, I was fine in the lower heel tap shoes, moved up to the higher heel, and it became an ankle problem for a while. I had to like rehab to get myself ready for like just like quarter of an inch extra. But yeah, that kind of thing can make a big difference. So podiatry would be a good thing to look at. The other thing I would do is, this is going to sound really weird and probably a little bit creepy, definitely a little bit creepy, video her feet while she's dancing. Please don't share it with anyone else other than maybe the podiatrist because that's just weird. But I did this for myself. So I used to do like parkour, like free running stuff with my partner, and I couldn't work out why I got really horrendous ankle pain every single day after training. I was fine when I was training, and then the next day my ankles would hurt so badly. I videoed myself and then watched it back in slow motion, and I immediately understood why I got ankle pain every single time I went training. And it's because I was rolling my ankles every single landing, every jump, every takeoff. But I didn't notice it while I was doing the sport because I was focused on the sport. I wasn't focused on my own body. So once I worked out what I was doing with my feet by watching slow motion videos of myself, I could then start doing things like taping, like rehab, like increased body awareness to try and work out how to support myself and how to learn to do it better, basically. So it may be that certain jumps or movements or positions are the thing, the very specific thing that's causing this ankle dislocation every time. And if you can work out specifically what the problem is, you can come up with a better solution for managing it. At the very least, kinesiology tape and some kind of compression wrap. Compression is particularly useful proprioceptively. So, proprioception is your body's ability to understand where you are in relation to your immediate environment. So, but also in relation to yourself. So, are your legs out straight or are your knees hyperextended? That's proprioception. Likewise, are you successfully walking through a door frame or did you walk into the door frame? That's proprioception. Compression clothing helps to improve proprioception. So even just tubey grip around your ankles or like the bandagey stuff that sticks to itself, anything like that, increases your awareness of what your feet are actually up to, meaning that if you start to twist your ankle a teeny tiny bit, you're more likely to notice what's going on and take evasive maneuvers. Whereas if you don't notice you're twisting your ankle up until you literally trip over yourself, that's a major injury every time. Does that make a little bit of sense? I hope that's making sense. So podiatry referral to actually look at positioning, strength, support, and actually what's going on from the feet upwards, because it may be that actually it can be a toe issue and that's causing the ankle issue because like all the other way around even. So understanding like the specific nature of what's going on function wise. And I would go prepared for that appointment with a list of injuries, what's happened, and videos if possible, showing what positions her feet are ending up in, doing the stuff that she loves to do. And then I would find a physio who's particularly trained in that sport and work with them. So there are basically there's like a society for performing arts medicine. I cannot off the top of my head remember what it's called, but basically that is a thing that exists. So you can find basically healthcare professionals who are experts in performing arts and the kind of toll that that has on your body, and they'll probably be slightly more amenable to working with somebody on a sport that's arguably not a good idea but is fun anyway. Because if she loves it, she shouldn't be giving it up, you know? But it's about taking that in an informed way. So actually having the conversation of, do you want to keep doing this knowing that it's going to break you? If so, fine, that's an informed decision. I'm great with that. I will support all the way. But there's also a conversation to be had about maybe are there other kinds of dance that might be a little bit safer? Is that just as much fun? Can we try a few of those out? So that would be my kind of main suggestions, I think, and I hope that is helpful. Okay. Yeah, interactions checker is a good thing. Um, Working with great podiatrists who specialise in biomechanics and bendy people. Perfect. They're exactly the right person for the job. Hope it's okay to jump in, but I'm a ballet teacher. I have lots of hypermobile ankle issues I see in my students that stem from hip instability. Dynamic tape to protect ankles whilst building postural and hip control can sometimes help bendy dancers out. And a big yes to videoing her feet, especially when landing jumps. Fabulous. Um, I wish I'd had advice back when I was doing dance as a teen. Um, yeah, definitely. I mean, podiatrists will always tell you to work from the feet up, but actually looking at what's going on with the rest of you can be a big thing. So, um, as an example, when I first got fixed like hinged knee braces, the first time I wore them out of the house and I tried to walk to the corner shop, I fell in a hedge. And I fell in a hedge because I didn't know how to walk around corners properly. And I was 24 or 25 at this point. And it was at that point I realised I'd been walking wrong round corners my entire life. So my approach to walking round corners was to plant my foot straight and rotate my body round by twisting my hip and my knee. And that's how I'd always done it. But it turns out what you're supposed to do is rotate from the hip and plant your foot round at an angle as you go round the corner. So I learned that the hard way by literally getting knee braces that prevented me from doing the cheap movement. But this is like a whole thing, basically. Hypermobile people can, to the untrained, vaguely not paying attention observer, on the whole, pretend that we're functioning normally for short periods of time. But when you actually get down to like the nitty gritty detailed stuff, a lot of the time we might look like we're doing something right, but we are using entirely the wrong muscle groups. The patterning is wrong, the posture is wrong. We've got our weight shifted in weird directions. We've tensed up in some areas and completely forgotten to activate others. I once spent an entire hour with my physio trying to turn on my butt muscles whilst standing up. And the only way I could do it was by holding onto my own butt because I couldn't do it. I was so used to just using my core, my hip, and my lower back to overcompensate that I didn't know how my own body was supposed to work. So, for situations like that, when you're teaching movements, particularly things like ballet, gymnastics, um, swimming is another one, musical instruments are another one as well. Something can look like the right position, it can look beautiful, but it's worth checking, are you actually using the right bits of your body to accomplish that? Likewise, yoga, just because you can get into a position doesn't mean you're using the right parts of your body to accomplish it. So there's often a big, big difference between passive flexibility and active flexibility. So if I sit and I pull my foot straight up in front of me, I can get my knee to touch my face pretty much, like I'm really bendy in that direction. Can I just lift my leg off the floor and bring it to my face? Absolutely not. So when we're looking at things like ballet and gymnastics in particular, a lot of the time dancers will cheat by basically chucking body parts and relying on passive flexibility. But what we're looking for is to increase that active muscle control so that you're lifting things into position using your muscles rather than just cheating and using your innate flexibility to get round the fact that you're not as very well toned. I hope that's making some sense and is at least vaguely useful. But yeah, things like training in front of a mirror, things like video, things like compression clothing are all really useful for all forms of sport. Often, a lot of hypermobile people, when I say cheat exercising, it isn't deliberate. We don't know we're doing it. So, working out what your body is actually getting up to versus what you think you're doing can be two completely separate problems. So, Yeah, hopefully that makes a little bit of sense and is useful. Lovely. Okie dokie. Part of the next stanza. Brilliant. Yeah, well done. Batham. Yeah, yeah, that's the one. Thank you. Um, Performing arts medicine people. Fabulous. Okay. That brings us very nicely to the end of the session, I think. Yeah, all caught up. Fabulous. Thank you so much. Um, okay. My details, my website's up there if you need me. Feel free to drop me a message. Um, hello at jboccupationaltherapy.co.uk. You can find me on Facebook as well. If anything I've asked, if you've got like follow-up questions, just get in touch. It's all good. In the chat, you will also find a link to the follow-up questionnaire type thingy. Feedback is really, really useful. Feedback is particularly useful in helping the HMSA to secure funding for further education, both for patients and for professionals. So if we're doing a good job, please tell us. If we're doing a bad job, tell us how we can do better. And we listen. We change things in response to that feedback all the time. So greatly appreciated. Thank you very, very much. Um, yeah, I hope you all have a wonderful evening, and I hope you will come back next time, and I will see you soon. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye.